My mother didn't even blink as she said it across the dinner table. "You're not half as good as your sister." The words were so harsh the room shook. I pushed my chair back, feeling every year of silence tighten in my chest, and said, "Then she can start paying your rent." My forks went numb. My father's face paled. "Rent? What rent?" he whispered as if the truth was about to swallow him whole. But that moment, the shock, the silence, the fear in his eyes, was nothing compared to what followed. Because the real secret hadn't been revealed yet. My name is Claire Ellis, and for most of my life, I've been the quiet one in a family that never stops talking about my sister. People often assume I'm shy, but that's not entirely true. I learned early on that silence in my parents' house kept the peace. And peace, however fragile, was something I tried to protect. On paper, my life looks stable. I'm a finance director at a logistics company near the Portland port. I work with numbers, deadlines, and logical systems. There's a tranquility in spreadsheets I've never found in real life. My days move to a steady rhythm. The hum of forklifts at the port, the hum of the desk, the soft clicks of a keyboard. I retreat to my small apartment with its warm lamps and river view. Some nights I cook pasta, put my hair up, and find comfort in the small, organized things. But this stability ends every Friday. Then I drive to my parents' two-story suburban home, a place enclosed by a well-maintained fence, the illusion of a perfect family. Inside, that perfection quickly crumbles. The moment I step through the door, I feel like I'm 16 again. The second daughter, the supporting role in Madeline's story. My sister has always been the star, tall, self-assured, the kind of person who commands attention and expects to stay that way. She raked in awards in high school, earned a law scholarship, and entered a field everyone raved about before she'd even proven herself. As for me, quiet and reserved Claire, I watched her steal the spotlight as if it were her right. My parents adored her, they always had. At every family gathering, every holiday, every dinner, they lauded her accomplishments as if they were precious gifts. New cases she'd won, promotions she'd earned, the house she'd bought, her plans, her vacations, her possibilities. And then there was me, Claire, who'd paid for her own college at 17. Claire, who'd worked 2 jobs while in college. Claire, who'd never asked for help. I'd learned not to. It wasn't that my parents disliked me. They just preferred the more sensational story. Still, I made sure to come every Friday because they insisted. "You have a place in this family," my father would always say, half joking, half serious. My mother would call if I was even 5 minutes late. She always reminded me, family first, though I often felt that Madeline first was closer to the truth. Dinners were routine. Mum prepared the same roast chicken. Dad asked the same questions. Madeline shared the same triumphs with me, and I stirred the food on my plate, pretending my silence didn't weigh me down. But the Friday before everything collapsed was different. Mum gave me sharp, scrutinizing looks. Madeline was in an unusual state of triumph, as if she knew something I didn't. Even Dad's smile seemed exaggerated. I could feel it then, a storm brewing beneath the polite clatter of dishes. Little did I know it would hit me first. Friday dinner started like any other Friday, but there was a weight in the air I couldn't quite put my finger on. Mom lingered by the stove longer than usual, stirring the same pot twice, her jaw clenched. Madeline scrolled through her phone with a wry, almost forced smile. Dad cleared his throat constantly, like he does when he's about to make an announcement. I've lived through enough Fridays to know when something's going to happen, but I tried to ignore it. I set the table, arranged the cutlery, and pretended not to notice the tension building beneath every breath. When we finally sat down, the conversation, as usual, turned to Madeline. "She's doing a presentation at a conference next week," Mom said proudly. They asked her, "Isn't that great?" Dad added, flashing a campaign poster smile. "She's always been exceptional." Madeline shrugged with feigned modesty. "Well, they recognize talent when they see it." I chewed slowly, swallowing a mixture of chicken and resentment. I spent the entire day at work fixing up someone else's financial mess, but it wasn't mentioned at the family dinner table. My accomplishments were locked away in the corners of my parents' house, hidden among bills and forgotten grocery lists. I tried to change the subject. "I oversaw a big project at work this week," my boss said, but Mom waved her hand dismissively. "You're fine, Claire, but Madeline's work affects hundreds of people. It's different." That sting, small, sharp, deliberate, hit me exactly where she wanted it. I glanced down at my plate, reminding myself to keep breathing. "It's just another Friday," I told myself. Another night of swallowing what I wanted to say. But Dad leaned back and let out a deep breath. "Speaking of houses," he began, "Madeline helped us sort out some mortgage paperwork last month. It was a real blessing." A shiver ran down my spine. Mortgage paperwork. Blessing. Madeline's smile widened. It wasn't a big deal. My fork froze halfway to my mouth. 3 years of installments throbbed in my chest. Installments I'd paid quietly, without applause, without appreciation, because they told me they didn't want anyone to worry. I'd sacrificed vacations, graduate studies, even the down payment on my apartment. And now they were rewriting the story. A warm feeling began to rise in my chest, slowly at first, then rising like a tide. I couldn't hold it in anymore. Mom must have felt it because she gave me that look, that haughty tilt of her head that always meant for me to shut up. And then she said the sentence that ignited something inside me. You're not half of what your sister is. The room wasn't just silent, it was completely silent. I felt myself sitting upright. I could hear the chair legs scraping against the wooden floor. I felt every word I'd held back gathering in my throat like a raging storm, yearning to be unleashed. And for the first time in my life, at that table, I didn't suppress this feeling. I let it surface. The words came out of my mother's mouth with such fleeting certainty that I wondered for a moment if she could hear herself. You're not half of what your sister is. She said it as if she were telling us the weather, as if it were a truth I should have accepted long ago. Something settled inside me. I pushed my chair back slowly. The sound of the wood scraping against the floor split the air in two. Madeline's smile faded. My father looked at me in surprise, as if he'd forgotten I was there. I looked into my mother's eyes, my voice quieter than I felt. Then she can start paying your rent. Silence fell over the room. My father blinked. Rent? What rent? His voice broke, almost pleading. I didn't flinch. Mortgage payments. For 3 years. 3 pairs of eyes widened simultaneously, shock, denial, and something close to fear flashing across their faces. I felt strangely light, as if I'd finally stopped carrying a burden no one knew existed. My mother regained her composure first. Claire, don't exaggerate. We never asked you to. I interrupted her, my voice steady. You did. Every month. Just this once. We'll manage next month. Don't let the bank send a notice. I have the installments. I have the bills. I have everything. My father's face paled. You shouldn't bring this up now. It's inappropriate. There it was, the dismissal, the downplaying, the attempt to bury the truth in the shadows where they'd prefer I live. I stood upright, my hands on the back of the chair. What's inappropriate is pretending that Madeline saved a house I paid for to keep standing. Madeline spoke finally, her voice faint. Claire, maybe you misheard. Maybe Mum didn't mean. But I wasn't listening anymore. I watched them desperately try to rewrite the story, to mold it to fit their narrative. And for the first time, I didn't shrink to fit it. Something inside me opened up. Sharp, clear, irrevocable. Without saying a word, I left the dining room, grabbed my coat, and stepped out into the crisp Portland air. My breath came in gasps, not from regret, but from the shock of hearing myself standing after years of sitting. That night, I went back to my apartment, opened my laptop, scrolled to the automatic monthly payment, and clicked cancel. A small box popped up. Are you sure? I was sure. I was supposed to feel a great sense of relief when the payments were stopped, but instead, they opened up a whole new world. For the first time in 3 years, no money was withdrawn from my bank account on the 15th of each month. My parents' silence was so deafening it seemed to shake the walls. I started running along the river in the mornings. At first, it was just to calm my trembling hands. But soon, the rhythm of my steps on the pavement felt like freedom. I joined a Thursday cooking class at the community center. I learned how to make homemade pasta and how to laugh with strangers who knew nothing about my family. I even let some friends take me on weekend trips around Mount Hood, where the air was clearer, as if it hadn't been affected by the forecast yet. As time went on, I saw everything more clearly. Every just this month. Every don't tell anyone. Every time they praised Madeline while I silently paid the bills. Then came the photograph. It arrived one Sunday morning from Mrs. Margaret, my parents' elderly neighbor, who had been observing everything. She had sent me a picture of my childhood home with a sign hanging on the porch. Congratulations, Madeline, on preserving the family home. My whole body went numb. Preserving. Madeline. My throat tightened as I stared at the sign, and my hands went numb. Every late-night flight, every sacrifice, every time I'd told myself family first. It all rewrote as if I'd never been there. I didn't cry. Not this time. I felt something else, something sharper, something more grounded. I walked to the dining table, took out the folder where I'd kept every payment and invoice I'd printed over the past 3 years, and began organizing them by date, month by month. It didn't look like a stack of papers, but a quiet autobiography of sacrifice. That's when Emily called. Claire, she whispered, I think you should know. Your parents are planning a family appreciation dinner next month in Seattle. They asked me to make the slideshow. I mustered my courage. Let me guess. It's about Madeline. It's worse than that. I could hear the unease in her voice. They wanted to highlight her as the reason the house was saved. They gave me captions. They called her the pillar of the family. Pillar. Savior. Hero. All words I deserved but never received. Send me the file, I said. She hesitated. Are you sure? I'm absolutely sure. When the slideshow arrived, I opened it and felt a hollow laugh escape me. Pictures of Madeline standing proudly in front of the house, my parents hugging her on the porch. Captions like, Thank you, Madeline, for protecting our family home. I made a copy of the file and added what they had deleted. After the last slide, I included a payment schedule, bar graphs of the monthly support, and screenshots of messages from my mother. Blurred for privacy, but clear in meaning. The final slide, a picture of the house with the caption, "The truth deserves a place too." I saved the file on my laptop in the cloud and on a USB flash drive that I carry in my bag like a second heartbeat. Weeks passed. I moved into my new apartment in Seattle, bright and quiet, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city skyline. I bought a light gray sofa, a small oak table, and a tall bookshelf. For the first time in my life, I had a home of my own. Then the invitation arrived. A message from my mother. Family appreciation dinner. Dressed to impress. No explanation, no thanks, no apologies. But when the day arrived, I didn't go to impress them. I went to accomplish something. The restaurant in downtown Seattle glowed with soft amber lights. Through the glass, I saw familiar figures. My parents, Madeline in her emerald dress, and relatives I hadn't seen in years. Everyone was dressed as if they were going to a party. And in a way, they were. I waited by the door unseen while my father held the microphone. He began proudly. "We are here to honor our daughter Madeline, who stood by us through thick and thin, who helped us keep our home, which has remained in our family for decades." Applause, smiles, cameras flashed. The slideshow began. Madeline on the balcony, Madeline holding papers, Madeline smiling beside my mother. Comment after comment painted a fabricated story. Then the screen flickered. A graph appeared. Then another. Then the dates, the payments. 3 years of financial support stretched across the screen with merciless clarity. Silence fell over the room. My parents froze. Madeline's mouth fell open in surprise. I stepped toward the light. "If the truth upsets anyone tonight," I said quietly, "that's not my problem." All heads turned in the room. My father looked at me as if I were a ghost he'd never expected to see. My mother's face wrinkled, not with shame, but with fear of being exposed. Madeline's eyes filled not with sadness, but with terror. I walked over to the screen. I paid my mortgage for 3 years. Not 1 month, every single month. Quietly and regularly. While you 2-inch, I looked at my parents. Rewrote the story to make it easier for everyone to applaud. My father tried to speak. "Claire, take this outside." "Why?" I asked. "You wanted everyone here to know what Madeline did. Why don't they know what I did?" Whispers spread like wildfire. I knew something wasn't right. She was always working late. 3 years. I paid it all off. Madeline stood trembling. "I didn't ask them to do this. I thought." "You thought nothing," I said, not harshly but clearly. "You enjoyed being the hero of a story that was never yours." Finally, my mother found her voice. "Claire, we didn't mean to embarrass you." I laughed softly. "Embarrass me?" "By telling the truth." The USB drive felt heavy in my pocket, but the truth on the screen was enough. I had no desire to attack them further. The goal wasn't to win, but to prove my existence. "Just so you know," I said, "I don't want the house, I don't want any favors, and I won't let you erase me." A long silence fell over the room after I turned away from the screen. My father held out his hand. "Claire, wait." But I didn't wait. I turned and walked to the door, feeling a lightness I hadn't felt in years. Outside, the chill of a Seattle night enveloped me. I stood on the steps, breathing in the fresh air, and realized something. This wasn't revenge, it was liberation. Inside they could argue, cry, and deny. It didn't matter. The truth had been spoken, and I had finally stepped out of the shadow they had kept me in. And once you step into your own light, there's no going back. 2 days after dinner, I was watering a small plant on my porch when there was a knock at the door. Through the peephole, I saw my parents standing close together, looking younger than ever. My mother's eyes were puffy, my father's shoulders tense, as if the chilly Seattle air had etched new lines into them. I opened the door without saying a word. They entered slowly, scanning my apartment as if entering a life they had never imagined for me. Sunlight streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows, illuminating the edges of my bookshelf, the new dining table, and the quiet I had created. My mother spoke first. "Claire, we're sorry." Her voice broke. "We were wrong. We shouldn't have let the story become something it wasn't. We shouldn't have asked you to bear all this alone." My father added, "We've talked. We want your name on the house. You've earned it." I let the words sink in, not bitterly but clearly. I said, "I don't need it. I have a home now. My own." What I needed was respect and honesty, not some action. Silence fell. My mother's hands trembled. My father looked down at the floor as if the truth had finally dragged him to some unfamiliar place. I said quietly, "I'm not angry anymore. But I've had enough of disappearing. If we're going to rebuild anything, it has to start here." Something in the room had changed. Not forgiveness, not yet, but openness, a place where we could breathe without being weighed down by old memories. When they left, I felt the apartment had become brighter. I walked out onto the balcony, looking at the horizon, aware that I had crossed a point of no return. And for the first time, I I felt that the future was entirely mine. I stood on my porch for a long time after the door closed behind my parents, watching the Seattle lights flicker in the darkness. For years, I thought that keeping the peace meant staying silent. But the truth is, silence doesn't protect you, it erases you. My choice of self didn't break up my family. It finally shattered the narrative that had kept me small. And perhaps that was the real beginning.
अंधेरी दीवारों में खुद को ढूंढता हूँ मैं। ये जो दिन सहाने थे उन्हीं को सोचता हूँ मैं। तुम्हारे बिन ये मौसम भी बड़ा बेसर्द लगता है। दिल का हर एक कोना अब बहुत ही दूर भरता है। अंधेरी दीवारों में खुद को ढूंढता हूँ मैं। ये जो दिन सुहाने थे उन्हीं को सोचता हूँ मैं। तुम्हारे बिन ये मौसम भी बड़ा सर्द लगता है। दिल का हर एक कोना बहुत ही दर्द भरता है। मेरे साए भी मुझसे अब जुदा होने को कहते हैं। तुझे खोने की राहों में ये आंसू बहने लगते हैं। कहाँ जाऊं कहाँ ढूंढूं मेरा वो साजो सामा तो मेरी हर एक तमन्ना तू मेरी रूह का मकां तू। लकीरों में नहीं लिखा जो तुमने ख्वाब देखा था। वफा की इस कहानी में फकत एक गम ही लिखा था। सितारों से भी पूछता है पता तेरा कहाँ होगा, मगर खामोश है दुनिया कहाँ मेरा जहाँ होगा। बस एक बार मुड़ के देख ले मेरी बेबसी की सूरत। मुझे है आज भी तेरी वफा की सख्त जरूरत। साए मेरे तन्हा सफर बस रह गया दर्द का असर। साए मेरे तन्हा सफर बस रह गया दर्द का असर, दर्द का असर।